Open your mind.
Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
Myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 24th of April 2016 and we are in Studio 2 for a change.
Yes, we are.
Excellent. And the weather's actually better here than Studio 1.
Yeah, well, I always like to keep the sunshine at my back door.
Artificial. You got a green screen there in the background. Okay, yeah, good evening, everyone. Right, we have two guests on the show tonight. We have Garnet Schulhauser. Garnet's been on the show before, and we're going to catch up with Garnet. He has a third book out, and he's going to tell us all about his third book and just things that he come across. He's speaking to a spirit guide and the information that he's been given by a spirit guide. And then later on, our guest is Anthony Paltel. Do you want to say that name?
Yeah, I think it's Anthony Pantalleresco, I think.
Very good. Pantalleresco.
Something like that.
God, we have good names tonight, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We have a few tongue twisters. So there are two guests on later on. There's a few things, obviously, we're going to go through first, but before we do that, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Yes, 046927. Sorry, the phone number is 0469271212. However, we are in Studio 2 this evening, so this could be a first. The phone number for Studio 2 is 0469271204. If you're going to call in from outside the Republic of Ireland, that's going to be 00353 469271204. What else we got? We also have Facebook, the anti-social media. Link for Facebook is on the website there, OYMradio.com. You will see the link there for the Facebook channel. You'll also see the link for the YouTube channel as well. We also have the TuneIn Radio application if you want to check us out on the smartphone or the iPhone. The link is there for that. That's a free app. You can download that and enjoy OYM 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We also have the chat room on the website as well. We're going to be monitoring the chat room for questions for a guest this evening. We're also going to monitor the chat room on People's Internet Radio. So actually, hi to everyone who's in both of the chat rooms there. Just want to make a little announcement that I am having issues trying to log into the chat room on PIR. I will continue to do that during the show, but if it's a thing that we can't, then you may have to just log into the chat room on OYM for the questions. So we'll keep trying anyway. Alan.
Right, okay. I'm having the same problem. We can't log in there to the PIR chat room for some reason, but we'll keep trying, as Steve said. Now, Steve's going to kick us off regarding the public banking forum. It's going to happen this week. It's actually this Friday coming up. And we have obviously a location as well for it. Steve?
You'll not leave me much else to say. It's in the Ashling Hotel. There. Yeah, no, we have mentioned this. It's the publicbankingalliance.ie. That's the website if you want to check it out. They're having a meeting in the Ashling Hotel on the 29th of April. That is this week. I think it's Friday. It is Friday.
This Friday.
And it's going to be Banking and Money Reform Conference with Professor Richard Werner, and a submission from Positive Money UK. It's going to be a morning to mid-afternoon session, and the entry for corporate and academics is €50, private individuals is €20, and student and unemployed is €10. So again, that's the 29th of April, next Friday, and it's in the Ashling Hotel. You can check it out on publicbankingalliance.ie for more information.
Brilliant stuff, Steve. Okay, now, just a few bits and pieces as usual. During the week, I was just surfing around and having a look at what's going on.
On your surfboard?
On the surfboard.
On the surfboard, yeah.
And just seeing what's going on regarding the planet. And I came across some information, and it said that the Biosphere collapse of planet Earth has only gotten far, far worse. From the Great Barrier Reef to 165-degree temperatures in Iran and Iraq, the ability of Earth to sustain life is rapidly reaching the point of no return. If we don't stop these malevolent geoengineering and climate modification programs, we're dead. So very worrying times at the moment on what's going on, and we know about chemtrails, and everybody's I think more and more people are beginning to wake up to it, but you know, as we always said about the negatives and the cabal, they will do, the powers that war, they will do what they can. They'll keep on doing what they're doing. They know their back is against the wall, but they're going to keep on doing it. and it's destroying the planet. I don't know whether people have seen more animal deaths and whales dying and everything else. And we have extreme, not just temperatures, but I think there's a report of 38 volcanoes going off around the planet all at the same time. So an awful lot of changes going on, and a lot of earthquakes happening as well. We gave out the site last week where you can go and monitor what's going on around the planet, and quite worrying times at the moment, but we'll keep an eye on that and keep you posted. Steve?
Yeah, another story that we came across during the week, and this is very kind of disturbing in a way. It's a man in Waterford. He was in the district court on Thursday the 21st of April, and he was fined and given probation for, guess what? Trying to commit suicide. The poor man was convicted for wasting River Rescue Services time and resources. So the message to anyone who has suicidal tendencies and mental health issues from this banana republic is, if you're going to commit suicide, then make sure you do it right, or you'll end up with a criminal record. I mean, that's a crazy story. I mean, when you think about, okay, the guy was obviously in a very, very dark and dismal place, and that's all he could think of was the only way out to stop the pain. It wasn't to try and, help people or to make things better. It was to stop the pain that he's going through. I can only assume that maybe he has fallen on hard times with the country in the state that it's in. Maybe he was being evicted from his home. Who knows? But all he wanted was for the pain to stop, and that's the only way he could see to make that happen. And, fortunately, his life wasn't lost. But then you have this whole Banana Republic thing, whereby because people went out and had to obviously jump into the river to save him, he's got a criminal record and he's been fined. It's ridiculous. What they should be doing is taking the poor man and saying, what is wrong? How can we help? Instead of just bringing him into court and slapping a label on him.
It's unbelievable. Only in Ireland, the Banana Republic. No wonder other countries laugh at our politicians and laugh at our system. It really is ridiculous. I mean, it's just immoral to do something like that. It goes to show there's a complete lack of understanding from our people in power in our judicial system. They just, they're robots as far as I'm concerned. No feelings, no apathy. Complete apathy, I should say. Right, okay, and the story we come across, which is kind of hopefully it's a good story, is that Kerry County Council wants to see marijuana legalised for medical reasons. Hey, that's a good thing. So it says Kerry County Council is leading calls nationally for the legalisation of marijuana for medical use after one local politician secured unanimous backing for the move on Monday. We've talked about this before. We have time and time again. We're not too concerned about the legalisation of marijuana for personal use, the medical use, because we know it cures cancer. Time and time again, this has been proven. And for a number of other medical issues, it could be used. You could probably eliminate a quarter of the people in hospitals by giving them medical marijuana, medical cannabis. So that's a good move from Kerry County Council if they're going to do that. Fair play.
It is, yeah. But unfortunately, what we have seen before, when this issue was raised before in the so-called Dáil or the Oireachtas or whatever one wants to call it, it was voted down. It was a unanimous vote because obviously people know that there are kind of more medicinal uses for this plant. Let's just call it a plant. I mean, that's what it is. It's a plant that was given to us, and It should be legalised. It definitely should be a lot more research done on the plant instead of just going up to a vote within the government and the government shooting it down. I think the people who obviously voted for it, they kind of knew the benefits, but those who voted against it, they also knew the benefits and they knew that there were certain cures that would come along with this plant as well. Anyway, I just want to say, Hammy did say in the chat room there was an issue with the microphone sound. He said it's gone now. If anyone has any problems, if they notice any issues with the audio, just let us know in the chat room there, and we will try to remedy that as soon as possible.
Brilliant stuff. Now, before we go off to Alan and Steve's week, just one thing. We all know, we heard about Prince and the death of Prince, and there's a lot of kind of speculation going around regarding what happened. whether he was on drugs. Now, apparently he was Jehovah's Witness and he was big into health and he was a vegetarian. So why he would be on drugs is another thing. Other people are saying it's a ritual sacrifice because he was part of the system. He bought in and sold his soul to the musical system. And basically it happens to be on the day of the Queen's birthday. And we all know how ritualistic these people are and what they do. I did see footage of a video that you won't find on YouTube that he did a concert in Norway, I believe, in 1998. And during the concert, he sings out about Bin Laden and 2001, as in the Twin Towers. So he obviously had some inside information about that. And obviously, at his level, he probably did. So maybe it was. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was, maybe it was something more sinister than what we know. I mean, again, the truth will hopefully come out eventually. But let's keep an eye out on things. There's a lot of stars we've lost up to now. And another country and western singer, Merrill Haggard, or I think his name is, he actually died there a few days ago as well, a country and western singer. So there seems to be an awful lot going on there. So, yeah, we'll just have to kind of keep our eye out and see what else happens. Anyway, how's your week, Steve?
Yeah, I can't complain. Well, obviously I'm going to start complaining shortly if this audio issue keeps happening. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Now my week's fine. Busy enough week. I know there's a lot going on in the country, and I know there's a lot that you have to get through as well. But I just want to say one thing, that tonight is the night of the Census.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, thank you for my sound effect.
Special effects.
Yeah, for the census. And we did discuss this in great detail last week. And I know there's Vin touched on it as well. And it was a great chat we had last week in relation to the whole thing, and where the census is going and what exactly they hope to get from it. And for anyone who kind of missed last week, I say just check out the podcast if you can, because it was absolutely fantastic. But tonight is the night, and for anyone who didn't get one, I know some people did get them and some people didn't get them. And I think Snowflake was saying on the chat room there that someone shoved one in her letterbox and broke the letterbox. And I actually have one here in front of me. I'm sad to say I have one here in front of me. I'm just showing it to my colleague Alan, Mr. James.
Yeah.
I don't believe he has one in his possession.
No, for some reason the guy didn't call around to my house. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Did he not?
No.
Okay. Maybe he did and you were out. I don't know. But there's a lot of questions on this whole census, and anyone who's actually sitting down this evening to fill it out, because this is the night that it's supposed to be filled out, you will kind of see that some of the questions are really kind of nonsensical and farcical.
I wasn't here, by the way.
You weren't. I don't even know who you were.
No. Okay.
And if my darling wife decides to fill out that one there that you have in your hand, if she decides to fill that one out, I'm up in your house tonight, so I won't be here.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
I don't know where the hell we are, but we're not here.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he didn't like to look at my house or something. Don't know. I don't understand it.
Yeah. But there's a lot of invasive questions in it, as we've said out over the past couple of weeks. A lot of kind of questions that should really only be discussed between you and your medical practitioner, and it's no one else's business. And there's a lot of questions on there in relation to they're going to sugarcoat and going around the bushes, around the houses to find out how many rooms you have. Yeah, it's a lot of pages, isn't it?
That's a lot of pages and a lot of personal questions. Yeah. Holy moly!
And basically, what they want to know, one of the questions is, for anyone who's interested, is they want to know, besides bedrooms, okay, bedrooms are obviously where you sleep, how many other rooms in your home could be used for people to sleep? And, obviously, technically, you could throw a few people on the sofa, in the sitting room, in the couch, in the living room, whatever. So I think that's kind of a precursor for introducing the bedroom tax, which has been already introduced, as we know, in the UK. And I'd say that's definitely coming down the line here.
Man, these questions are so intrusive. They really are.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
And
that is.
Have you seen the ones about all the medical conditions?
Oh well, look, that's between you and your doctor.
Absolutely,
it's none of their bloody business.
Yeah. So anyway, so if anyone is thinking of filling it out tonight, well, best of luck. We're not going to say you should or you shouldn't, but we will say that there are just some questions on there that it's just. It's giving too much information, and if you wouldn't tell it to a stranger, then I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable telling it to the government because God knows they're not our friends anyway.
Well, actually, you're telling it to a company that supports the Abu Ghraib torture. It's the same company that did it in 2011.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So you're not actually telling it to the government. You're telling it to them, and then they're passing it on to the government.
Right. Okay. Well, to each his own. So if you were unlucky enough to have one, well, listen, best of luck, and let your conscience be your guide. That's all I'll say. Anyway, how's your week? Yeah,
okay, just a couple of things, because we want to get Garnet in. I'd like to give a shout-out to Sandra, to Sharon, and to Dermot. I went down to the hub during the week. Again, another visit down there. And again, they're doing a fantastic job. Things are getting set up now. They're being organised. Computers are all up and running. Printers are hopefully in now, because we were trying to get one working on the Wednesday. So somebody's going to ship one in on the Thursday. So hopefully that's up and running. And but they're doing a brilliant job, guys. So if you know anybody struggling, send them down to the hub in Mullingar or the hub down in Dublin. And they'll sit down and have a chat with them, and it's all free. There's no charge. All right, so just to be aware of that. And the last thing we're going to, I just want to mention is that I'm not happy with the mortgage to rent scheme that seems to be pushed out there. What I think is happening is that the banks are, and this is what the banks are offering the people, I think is what I would call a soft asset grab. Get people to hand back their homes and then increase the rent so they can't afford it, and get them out of the property and then sell the property, because we know all the rents are going up and everybody can't afford the rents. The landlords are trying to make money from it. And of course, a lot of the politicians in the Dáil are landlords. So, and I've seen something tonight, by the way, very quickly. I don't know how true it is. It was mentioned on Facebook that they want to bring in some kind of rule or law saying that expenses should be hidden, that the general public can't see the expenses.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I beg to differ. I'm sure half the country, I'm sure the majority of the people in the country would also find that kind of, it's not cricket, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We need to know exactly where our money is going.
Exactly. So whoever's behind that, we need to expose them. Anyway, let's get Garnet on. Good evening, Garnet. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad. Thanks a lot for coming back on. You have been on the show before, and people can tune in to the previous show, but just for people who haven't heard the last show, can you give us a quick synopsis of your background, and then we can crack on with the questions?
Well, I'm a Canadian living in Victoria, Vancouver Island. I practiced law for most of my career, most of my life, retired from the law in 2008. And how I met my spirit guide, Albert, was I was taking a stroll back in 2007 when I was still practicing law, taking a stroll down the street one sunny afternoon in May. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a homeless man jumps out in front of me and stops me in my tracks. And he looked like a typical homeless man with long stringy hair and a scraggly beard and dirty slept-in clothes. But what was different about him was that he had these amazing sparkling blue eyes that were doing two things. First of all, his gaze seemed to be penetrating deep within me, like he was looking right into the depths of my soul. And I sensed that he understood and knew everything about me, and everything I'd ever said or done in my life, and all my hopes and aspirations and my fears and anxieties and my deepest and darkest secrets. And I sensed that he knew all this even though we'd never met before. But I didn't feel violated, because at the same time his gaze was sending me this wave of pure unconditional love that was just infusing my whole body with an amazing sense of peace and security. So I stood here like a deer caught in the headlights until he finally broke the spell by saying to me, "Why are you here?" And then he promptly disappeared into a nearby store. And when I finally collected my wits, I went into the store to try to find him, but he is nowhere to be seen. So I went back out on the street, thinking that maybe he had somehow slipped out and he's back on the street, and I walked up and down for a few blocks trying to find him, but he had seemingly disappeared into thin air. So the next day, at the very same time, I went back to the very same street, hoping to spot this homeless man again. And after walking up and down a few blocks here and there for 10 or 15 minutes, I finally spotted him sitting all alone on a bench. And I went up to him and I said, "Who are you, and why did you stop me the other day?" And he said, "I'm a soul just like you. I'm here to answer your questions and help you on your journey." And that was the beginning of a dialogue I had with this man that went off and on for the next few months. And he told me his name was Albert, and he was really one of my spirit guides in disguise. And so he told me he came into my life to answer my questions, but also to be one of his messengers, because he wanted me to write a book about all of his revelations. And I did, and that resulted in my very first book, Dancing on a Stamp. And then after I finished my first book, he disappeared out of my life for a while. Then he came back in a very different sort of format. I woke up one night in my bed and I saw this ghost-like ethereal figure standing in the doorway of my bedroom. And when it moved closer, I could recognize what it was. It was my old friend Albert, but he was in astral form. And I said to him, "What brings you here, Albert?" And he said, "I'm here to take you on a series of astral trips, out-of-body adventures, where I'm going to take you to the spirit side and to other places in the universe and other places on our planet, because I want you to write about what you see and what you hear in your second book." And so he did. He then literally reached out and grabbed my astral hand, pulled my astral body out of my physical body, and then I just followed him up through the ceiling, up to the clouds, and we hovered above, at a high spot above our beautiful planet for a while. And then he led me through the spirit side, through a shimmering doorway to the spirit side. And so there was a series of adventures there where I met souls on the spirit side. I got to glimpse a few of my past lives in the Akashic records, got to go to other planets in the universe and see other sites on Earth to follow his agenda. His agenda was to try to open humanity's eyes to what's happening on our planet and how we needed to change our ways before we ended up destroying ourselves. So all those adventures are detailed in my second book, Dancing Forever with Spirit. And then after that book was written, Albert came back again for another set of astral adventures, and again back to the spirit side. I met a number of wise souls on the spirit side who had very interesting pieces of wisdom to pass on to us. I went to other planets again, other places on Earth, again with different encounters, different messages, but trying to open humanity's eyes to the problems that we're facing, and trying to steer us in a way to find a solution to the problems that we face every day on our planet. And those adventures were chronicled in my third book, Dance of Heavenly Bliss, which was just released in March. And so that's where we are now. I'm having further encounters with Albert, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through my fourth book, which I don't have a title for yet, and that'll be more astral adventures, more wisdom from my spirit guide, Albert.
Okay, it's very interesting. Now, before we went live, we were having a little chat about this, and one of the things I said to you was Albert. Did Albert ever talk to you about the cabal or the financial system and what's happening here on the planet at the moment? Because we know that, love is the highest emotion, and we all need to, be self-aware from a spiritual point of view, which is all fine. But obviously on a practical level, it's very hard for people if they're suffering under a financial strain or they're being chased by the banks or they can't feed their kids and all that kind of stuff. Did Albert, and I'm sure you, after speaking to Albert, I'm sure, as you said, you had a plethora of questions that you wanted to ask Albert. What's Albert's take on it? How does he, if you ask him questions, does he avoid them or does he answer them? How does that work?
Well, he answers some questions. He answers the ones that he thinks that I need to know and I need to write about so that other people can receive the same answer. But he doesn't answer them all. And if he feels that it's not necessary for me or appropriate for me to have the answer at this time, then he refuses to answer it. So he's got a very set agenda in terms of what he's going to reveal to me so I can put in my books. And so he doesn't answer all the questions. So he's never, you mentioned the banking cabal. He's never mentioned that. I've never asked him that question. And as I mentioned to you before we went on the air, I will ask him that next time I see him, but there's no guarantee he's going to answer my questions. So all I can do is try. Like I have a gazillion questions for him, and he only answers a few of them because he has a very set agenda in terms of what he wants me to know and what he wants me to write about. And so, I can't sort of get him off of that. He's in total control of the answers that he gives me, and sometimes it's very frustrating when he won't answer my questions, but that's just the way he is. Okay. And in terms of, as we talked about before we went on the air here, in terms of people saying, why aren't my guides helping me find a way to pay my bills and put the banks off and be more comfortable in terms financially, in terms of feeding my family and paying the rent and so on. And what I said to you was that everyone's guides knows exactly what you had planned before you were born in terms of what you wanted to experience and the challenges you wanted to face. And so they aren't necessarily going to make it easier for you to, in a financial sense or in other senses on this planet, just because you desire it, because maybe your soul does not want you to experience that. Maybe your soul wants you to be experience the struggles of having to find a way to pay your debts and pay your rent. So that could be why you're not getting any guidance from your guides in terms of how can I turn this around? So there's a very, we all had a set plan before we were born, and our guides know what it is. We don't remember it. And so they're sort of there. They've got the whole picture in front of them, and they know what it is that we hope to experience. And so they're going to try to steer us in that direction and keep us from going off on the wrong path. And so that's why we don't get all the obvious answers. I've asked Albert, as I mentioned to you before, why don't you give me the winning lottery number? I'd like to win the lottery. And he says, well, I could do that, but I'm not going to, because that would totally upset your life in terms of what you had planned beforehand. So that's not going to happen. And so it's the same thing with everyone else. And so our guides are there trying to steer us on the right course. That doesn't necessarily always mean they're going to try to help us pay our bills or find a way to pay the rent.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we have what we call a soul contract that we agree to before we come down, which is something that I think we've talked about before. Now, if Albert wants to disrupt myself and Steve's life by giving us the lottery numbers, we'd be more than happy to do that. I don't mind having my life disrupted with that, having a lottery win. Now, on your journey to going to different planets and stuff like that, I take it you were astral traveling with Albert.
Yes. Yeah, it's astral traveling. In astral traveling, it's virtually instantaneous. If you sort of, and I was just following Albert's lead, but if he thinks, okay, I want to be on this planet, which is 50 light years away from Earth, it's sort of like a snap of a finger, and there you are. So it's virtually instantaneous. So I was just tagging along. I never traveled astrally sort of by myself. It was always with Albert guiding me, taking me by the hand and showing me places. And so I was just sort of in his under his tutelage, and I just followed him wherever he went.
Excellent.
So it was very interesting, but a very neat way of traveling. I mean, it's as I mentioned in one of my conferences, traveling astrally, you don't have to go through security checkpoints. There's no crowded seats on a plane. There's none of that nonsense you have with airplane travel. It's really quite pleasant.
No shakedown from the TSA either,
Exactly.
So when you went on your travels, or after speaking to Albert, did Albert ever talk to you about any negative stuff? Negative energy, things to be aware of, things to be careful of if somebody else, pretends to be a spirit and they're on your side. Did he ever talk to you about anything like that?
Well, he did say that there are no evil spirits as such. So there are those spirits who are just inherently bad, who are evil and trying to do evil things. He said that there are some spirits who are confused and a bit misguided, and he said there's some what he termed as mischievous spirits that sometimes like to play pranks on people. They just think it's just for fun, and sometimes the receiver of this whatever they're doing doesn't take it the same way, but it's not because they're evil. He says every soul, every spirit on the spirit side is very much a positive, loving entity, a being of energy. So there's nobody that's inherently evil. So obviously there's no demons, there's no devil. That's just an invention of a lot of religions. But in terms of what's the negative things that happen on our planet, Alan, he says, for sure. I mean, humans have very negative emotions, as we all know. Fear, anger, hate, greed, jealousy, and that's what causes most of the problems on our planet. It's those negative emotions and people being unable or unwilling to control their negative emotions, and that's why we have violence and genocide and wars and terrorist acts and all kinds of other things that we experience every day on our planet, and which most of us don't like and we wish it would go away. But it's all a matter of our negative emotions. So humans can be, if they let their negative emotions run their lives, can be basically very evil people. And we've had a lot of those in our history. We're living amongst a lot of them right now, and it's just a case of those people not controlling their negative emotions, and they let their lives run amok and causing all the damage. So He's very aware of the evil that's on Earth, and his answer to that, when I say, well, what can we do about it, is that he says, well, we have to learn to embrace love and compassion. And if we can fully embrace love, unconditional love, for ourselves, for other humans, for the animals on our planet, for our Mother Earth herself, if we can fully embrace that, then the negative emotions will just melt away like a snowbank in the spring. So the solution is simple in concept, but very difficult to implement.
Totally.
Because we all have, it's very natural for us to have these negative emotions. You know, if somebody cuts you off in traffic, it's natural to feel a wellspring of anger towards that person. But we have to recognize that we have to sort of make a choice to say, I'm not going to feel that anger. I'm going to embrace love and get on with my life, you know. So it's very difficult to implement, but the concept is very, very easy to understand. And what Albert says is that all the messengers on Earth, of which I'm one, you and Steve are messengers as well through your radio show. We have, we have to get the message out to people that this is what we need to do. We need to embrace love and compassion before we end up destroying ourselves.
Yeah. No, I do agree. And they do say, see, myself and Steve have looked into this regarding energy. And they do say that given the option to be good or bad, a lot of people could pick the bad because there's less energy. On the bad side, it's easier to be negative than to be positive, because to be positive takes energy. We won't go into the science of it, but we'll do a show on it sometime. We'll talk about it. And obviously what we see on the planet, and I'm sure you see it too, we hear about people being possessed and demonic possessions, and we know people are very negative, and the psychopaths out there. It's going to take generations, I think, probably 100, 200 years for people to get that, because it's not going to happen overnight, because there's people out there who are happy with the status quo. They're happy the way things are going because they're in a position of power and control, and they're doing pretty nasty things. What about, kids being abused and sacrificed and all that kind of stuff? Now, I know that's a human trait and that's what's happening, but we have heard, obviously, that there's negative energies that are actually in control of them, because they're operating on such a low vibration, they can be manipulated by negative energies. Is that something that Albert has talked to you about?
No, he's not mentioned anything about negative energies. He, as I said, he's told me that the people who are evil on Earth, the humans who have done evil things and are still doing evil things, he says that's because they just can't control or are unwilling to control their negative emotions. And some people actually enjoy feeding their negative emotions, their anger and their greed and so on, and that's causes a lot of problems. And they don't really want to change their ways. They quite enjoy operating in a negative environment. But it's not because Albert didn't mention anything about negative energies invading them. He said it's just a function of how humans operate on our planet, that's the problem we all face, is to try to get the people who are enjoying their negative emotions to try to get them to stop and realize that it's very destructive, and that if we don't change our ways, we could end up destroying all life on our planet, which is really something that could happen very easily because we have weapons of mass destruction, as you know.
Yeah.
And if they're unleashed, we could destroy all of our life. And so we're really at a crossroads, humanity is, and that's why the spirit realm is really trying to get the message out through many different channels all over the world to let our fellow humans know that we really have to change our ways, and in a hurry, before we end up destroying all the life on our planet.
I think the way things are going at the moment with the planet and everything else, I think we're getting there slowly but surely. I think we're going to need a vast change of attitude with everybody in humanity for it to change. There's going to be we have a couple of questions coming in, but before we go over to the questions, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there thinking, I'd love to be able to speak to my spirit guide. Why did it happen to Garnet? How come it happened to him? How come my spirit guide doesn't talk to me? Has Albert said anything about that to you as to why some spirit guides will communicate with their person on Earth and other people don't? Other spirit guides don't?
Yeah, he has. I've asked him that question. He said that in my case, this communication with him and my meeting him was planned beforehand, before I was born. And it was designed so that his communication with me was designed to be clear and direct, like a conversation that you're having with me right now, so that I can easily understand his revelations and write them in my book. And so it was designed to be make it easier for me to write his revelations in my books. That's why it's so direct and forthright in terms of his messages to me. And he says that there are other people who can speak directly to their guides. Most people can't. He says because it wasn't intended, it wasn't planned beforehand. And he said that if we could all speak to our guides, and if our guides would tell us every day, every step we should take as we went through life, he said it would be way too easy for us.
Yeah.
We came here for a challenge, and if our guides are sort of coaching us every step of the way, then there's not much of a challenge anymore, because we have the roadmap all laid out for us. And so part of the challenge of a life on Earth, a human life, is that we don't know what's in our life plan. We don't know exactly where we should be going. We have to try to figure it out. But everyone's guides are sending us messages, even if it's not a direct communication. But most of the time, it's very subtle. So it's like a flash of intuition, a gut feeling, a whisper in your mind, a coincidental event. They're sending you these messages all the time. The problem that most humans have is that they don't recognize the messages. They don't hear them. They don't understand where they're coming from, and they don't pay any attention to them because our minds are so cluttered with so many other thoughts. So that's the challenge that most people have. And so to the people who say, I've been asked many, many times, how come I can't talk to my guide like you do to Albert? And I just say to him, because it probably wasn't intended. They want you to try to figure out their messages, their subtle messages, in the way that other people have to. And it's a struggle, but it's a struggle that you need to go through.
Yeah, I know what you mean. If you're given all the answers, then there's no point. And there is a thing that I have come across and said before on the show called medium worship, where people kind of get really fascinated with mediums, and they tend to be... There's one guy I knew over in the UK, and he had to put an answer machine on his phone because people were ringing him and going, what kind of car shall I buy? What colour house will I get? What colour room shall I paint the room? And all these questions, and he said, well, that's why you have free will, because that's the whole idea. If I keep telling you these things, then you're not learning from it. So that's kind of, that's kind of on the severe end of medium worship, but we know what you mean. Now let's pop off to the questions, and we have a few there. Steve's going to call them out.
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions, Garnet, and the first one I'm going to ask is from Chris, and Chris is wondering, have you ever considered that maybe Albert could be using you to spread disinformation or false information?
Yeah, it has popped into my mind occasionally, but not recently, because all I can say is that when I'm speaking to Albert, it's so clear to me that he is speaking openly and honestly and frankly with me, and he's coming from a position of love and wisdom, and it's just like, if you had a chance to talk to Albert, you would know very quickly that he's not trying to fool me to spread disinformation. He's really trying to spread the truth as it is, and he wants me to write about it. And so, no, other than initially a momentarily thought about is this guy for real or not? It was very clear to me early in the conversation this guy was for real. He was my spirit guide. He was a positive force, and what he was telling me was the real truth. So I have never had a doubt since then.
Yeah, and now when you said that most people cannot speak with their spirit guides because it wasn't kind of planned that way, if somebody listening to you this evening, and if they wanted to try, would it be possible, do you think, if they were to concentrate in meditation and do all the things that would kind of bring them into that kind of a reality, would it be possible to speak with their guide, or is it, does it have to be planned before they were ever conceived on this earth?
Well, it has to be planned beforehand, but you can, as you go through life, actually, you can actually, when your soul leaves your body every night when you sleep and goes to the spirit side, you can actually tweak and change your life plan sort of as you go. And so it's possible that you can always, if it wasn't planned initially, you can change that. And so what I'd say to people who want to speak to their guide is that maybe it's planned beforehand for you to do so, but you had to do so at a certain time in a certain place. So if you want to speak to your guide, get into a quiet your mind in a state of meditation, and just call out to your guide and say, hi, please identify yourself, and I'd like to talk to you. It won't always work, but you never know that it might happen someday. So I'd always encourage people to try.
Yeah, I've actually seen some information from various different sources on the likes of YouTube where people have said that it is possible to do this, and they say that even the likes of the astral travel, when the soul leaves the body, there's a lot of people saying that you can actually control this phenomenon, this astral travel, and you can, instead of your soul just leaving your body and you not being aware of it, that they're saying that you can actually bring yourself into that state of consciousness or unconsciousness or whatever it may be, and you can control exactly what happens. But they also say that it can be very dangerous as well. Is that something that you've come across, say, actually astral traveling and dangerous?
Well, I haven't been able to do the astral traveling on my own. It's always with Albert.
Yeah.
And he's never let me sort of get into any dangerous situation. I've never felt concerned or scared. I was concerned a bit when he took me to the middle of a black hole in the center of our galaxy, which I describe in my third book. And was a bit frightened for that experience, but he was there with me all the time, and I was not in any real danger. But I have heard about people who've been able to travel astrally and remember their adventures. Like one of the famous persons is Robert Monroe, who wrote several books about it, and he actually learned to astral travel by himself. He wasn't sort of in the guidance of his spirit guide, as far as I know. And so there have been people who've been able to do that. I have not been able to do it on my own. So I'm just sort of in Albert's hands, but I know that it is possible for some people to do that.
Yeah, because I did look into this a long time ago. It was probably 20 odd years ago. A friend of mine at the time, he was kind of obsessed with this, and again, like we always say, it wasn't something that was on my radar at the time, and I kind of thought he'd gone off the deep end when he was talking to me about this. But as time went on, I realised that he was kind of maybe a little bit more in tune with things than I was. Unfortunately, we've lost contact over the years, but I'd say this was kind of his forte, and I'd like to think he was successful in doing it. Where else? Joan is wondering, has your guide ever asked your guest? Now I'm guessing this is, has Albert ever asked you, Garnet, to speak with politicians or religious leaders and the rest of them to help them or change their ways?
No, he hasn't actually. He's not asked me to directly speak to anyone on this planet, whether it be politicians or religious leaders. What he's asked me to do is to spread his revelations to all people through my books and through going on radio shows and speaking at public engagements. So he hasn't asked me to directly talk to anyone. I have spoken to a number of souls, the souls of who have previously lived on Earth as politicians and religious leaders, but of course that's after the fact, and it doesn't really affect anything that's happening on Earth today. So far my mission has been spread his word through my books and through my radio appearances, but he hasn't asked me to talk to anyone directly. If he does, I'll certainly do so.
Okay, that's good to know. And Thomas on the chat room there, Thomas is just saying that he's actually read your book, and he's obviously giving it the thumbs up. He said it's a good book, so that's a good plug. Anyway, another poster on the chat room is wondering, does Garnet have any insight into the jinn in our reality? I'm guessing that's it's spelled Jinn. I always thought it was DJIN, but the jinn. Do you have any insight into those?
No, in fact, I'm not even aware of that term. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, the jinn was like a spirit. It's the eastern side. You know where we have leprechauns and fairies over here in the Western culture. On the eastern side, you have the jinn, but they weren't. They were kind of more negative than positive.
No, he's never mentioned that at all, although I can say that when you mention leprechauns and fairies, in my third book I actually describe an encounter I had when I'm astral traveling with Albert with one of your fairies. So I know for sure they exist. He's never taken me to see any of the jinn, and he hasn't described them to me, and I haven't asked him any questions about them. So I really can't comment on the jinn, but I know that you do have fairies, and they're very beautiful, lovely little people who are forced into hiding because of the violence and aggression of humans. And so if you want to know more about my experience, my encounters with the fairies, I encourage you to read my third book, Dance of Heavenly Bliss. Well,
just looking at the information regarding your third book, what you can kind of verify now with your astral traveling is the fact that there's loads of planets out there with loads of life and different kinds of life and different kinds of creatures that you've come across Do you want to tell us a bit about what you've seen?
Well, I did see, and this was described in my second book, I was taken to a planet called Xeron where I met with some very intelligent creatures who looked sort of a bit like spiders, but much bigger. And they were very intelligent. We communicated by telepathy, and they lived in underground cities on their planet because their planet, all the vegetation had been basically wiped out when their star became a red giant a long time ago. So they lived underground, and their job in terms of the galaxy was to search out planets in our galaxy that were capable of harboring life. And when they found one, they reported to the Galactic Council, and the Council then organized various ET races to transport life from another planet to this new planet. So they were basically helping the Galactic Council to seed life on other planets in our galaxy. And they, in fact, said that they were instrumental in determining when Earth was ready to harbor life, and that's when the Galactic Council arranged to seed life on our planet from other that originate from other planets. So that was one interesting trip that I had. I also had a trip to another planet in our galaxy where there was a very different human civilization. Because I had asked Albert, is Earth the only planet where humans exist? And he said, no, they're on a number of other planets. So he took me to one. This was a very interesting planet, many light years from Earth. It was a matriarchal society governed solely by women. And we met with the elected empress of that planet, elected by all the women. And she says that the women run everything on their planet. They are the leaders. They have all the positions of power and authority. And men are not allowed to assume any management or position of authority, and are not allowed to vote. And she says the men are very docile and compliant because of their policy to have all male babies or young children chemically sterilized at the age of 3. And because of that, because of the low testosterone levels, as a result of that, the men are just very docile and compliant. And so they don't really care about the women running the society. They're happy to just carry on with their lives and enjoy life. And she says that the men and women don't form unions. They don't have sex. Their babies are incubated in artificial incubators with using sperm from a sperm bank that's fueled with the sperm from a few select males who are not chemically sterilized. And she says they have a very peaceful society. The women have disputes, but they always manage to resolve them peacefully. So there's no violence, no crime, no wars, and the men are just very quite content because they don't really care about trying to run their planet. And she says that years ago they had a patriarchal society where the women were all subjugated by violent and abusive men. And that all ended when one of their women had a dream one night where she learned that there was a plant in their forest that, if ingested by the men, would drastically reduce the testosterone levels in men. And so they found this planet, and the women secretly fed this to their men, and then over the years it gradually switched around so that the women ran their planet. So it was a very interesting, different take, in sharp contrast to our planet. And as I left that planet, I said to Albert, wouldn't it be nice if we could find a happy middle ground between the extremes of that society and the patriarchal extremes of our society? It would be nice to have a happy middle ground. But anyway, very interesting society, very different way of running a planet.
That's definitely different. I think I'll actually take that off my astral travel list because it doesn't sound like fun to me to be sterilized or to be affected.
Well, as I said, as I left the planet, I said to Albert, has this civilization ever traveled to Earth? And he said no, because they haven't yet learned how to travel between the stars. And I said, oh, good, because I was afraid I was going to have to run back to Earth and warn the men, lest we all end up singing like the Vienna Boys Choir.
Yeah, I think we have to watch it if women start feeding us some kind of plant and putting it in our food. We have to be careful with that one. What do you say to people who are sceptical, Garnet, who are kind of saying, well, how can you prove all this stuff? I mean, what do you say to them?
Well, you can't prove it. You can't prove it in any scientific sense. It's just not possible. So I don't even bother to try. What I say to my skeptics is, read my books. You can believe it or not believe it. It's your choice. You have the right to believe whatever you like. But what I say to them is, it doesn't matter what you believe now, because at the end of the day, when both of us are dead, we'll both know who's telling the truth.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we always talk about the path of knowledge that we're all on and we're all learning, and what we might not accept. I mean, there's an example straight away with Steve. Years ago, a guy he knows was doing astral travelling, and Steve couldn't really accept it at the time. But now, obviously, a few years later, he can accept it, he can understand it. And this is what we kind of say on the show, is that we're all on a path of learning. We've experienced this with things as well, where it's something has come into our path of knowledge, I suppose, our learning process, and what we've decided to do as well. We're not ready for that yet. We just put it on the shelf, and then give it 1 or 2 years maybe, and then we have a look at the item again and go, oh, right, there it is. Now we understand it. Now we get it. And I think we are all on that path of knowledge. I mean, that's part of life anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And what you say is very true. It's like, 20 years ago, you guys wouldn't be running the show on the air. And if you did, no one would listen to it, and you wouldn't invite me, and nobody would read my books, because we weren't sort of at that stage, like 20 years ago. So there's been a lot that's happened in the last 20, 30 years in terms of people becoming more open-minded and more spiritually aware. And so that's why all of this stuff is happening right now, and it's a good thing, because I think then people will be getting the messages that they need to hear. So the fact that something that 20 years ago you wouldn't have believed something, and the fact that you do believe it now, just shows a natural progression of people moving up the spiritual ladder of awareness and getting to the point where we are now, and we have to keep on moving forward and keep on doing that.
Definitely. Now, we have a few minutes left. What advice or what good news can you pass to our listeners to say what's going on, what Albert have said, or what advice has he given you, or information has he given you from a positive point of view?
Well, he says that we're at a very crucial crossroads, and we have to sort of wake up and change our ways. But he also told me he's very optimistic that we will be able to do it. Like, he didn't say, "Look, it's a lost cause. You guys are just, you're going to crash and burn, so don't even worry about it." To the contrary, he says, we have a very, very good chance. He's very optimistic that we can change our ways and open our minds and save ourselves and our planet before it's too late. And so he's very much encouraging, as a lot of the other souls on the spirit side are, but it's going to take some work. It's not going to happen just on its own. We all have to focus on where we should be heading and try to change our ways. And if we do that and we all pull together, we can save ourselves and save our planet.
So apart from the information that he's given you, and you're putting it in the book to educate everybody else and let them know what's going on, is there any other kind of spiritual things going on? Are we getting help either spiritually or from the ETs to sort out the problems that we have here on the planet?
Well, we get help from both sides, actually. The ETs have been around for, since day one, trying to help us. They're limited in terms of what they can do, but they have been there trying to encourage us through telepathic messages and flashes of insight. They've helped us develop our technology. They're always trying to encourage us to stop our wars and our conflicts, but they just haven't been able to sort of openly sort of appear in front of the whole world and solve our problems. They're not allowed to do that, but they are there to help us, and they've been helping us in terms of seeding life on our planet and through giving us some insights to help us be able to live better lives through developments in technology.
See,
they're not allowed to just come in and say, "We're going to destroy all your weapons." They're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
In the spirit side, the Council of Wise Ones on the spirit side, they've been organizing a lot of help from that side. They've been encouraging a lot of advanced souls to incarnate on our planet over the last number of years, and the intent of that is to have these advanced and wise souls live among us as humans and spread the message of love and hope and inspiration to everyone else and get us on the right track. And they've also been sending a lot of messages through channels all over the world, as I mentioned before, and, through people like you who have host radio shows, people like me who write books to try to get that same message out to everyone. So there really are there's a very concerted effort, now, and has been over the last number of years, to get that message out to everyone. And so they're all working together cooperatively, but they're not going to just wave a magic wand and solve all of our problems. They're trying to encourage us to open our eyes so we can learn to solve our own problems.
I agree with that, but I'd also like to say, and I've said before on the show, we could speed up this process if we were given the tools to do the job. And what I mean by that is intention is everything, right? If you do it with the right intention, then you've got good karma, and that's good energy. If you're doing it with the wrong intention, then it's not going to happen, right? So what I mean by, there's certain people, as you said, on the planet who have the right intention, but they need the tools to do the job. Now, I know for a fact that if myself and Steve, and we've talked about this before in the show, if a philanthropist came along and said, right lads, I like what you're doing, here's some money, go and set up the radio station much better so you can get more audience, more people in, get the information out there better. Now, we'd love to be able to do that, but obviously it's not happening. Now, this is what I can't understand. I mean, Spirit are saying that they're trying to help us and educate us and everything else. We need the tools to do the job. We could speed up the evolution. Everybody, not just myself and Steve, but everybody who's involved in this, if they all did their part and we were given the tools to do that part, the speeding up of the awakening of the planet would be phenomenal. But yet, there must be some kind of issue there, or must be a timeline issue, because it's not happening.
Well, it's not happening because it's not intended to happen. And it goes back to the old thing, is that they're not going to make things really easy for us, that we have to sort of struggle through the crisis that we're in, each one of us, and we have to sort of get there on our own. And if they just, I mean, it would be so easy. They could just, if they wanted to, they could just, hover down from the spirit side and have somebody come down and say, okay, guys, we came from the spirit side. Here's how you guys can help yourselves, and here's your tools, and we'll just help you along. That would be too easy. They could do that. They're not going to do that. They're not. That's not part of what life on Earth is all about. So why hasn't the philanthropist come and given you guys money to expand your radio network? It's probably because they want you to struggle to get there yourself on your own without it being too easy. And I mean, I know that's sort of a simple answer, but that is in fact why it's happening. If it was intended for you guys to get a bunch of money from a philanthropist, then he would show up or she would, and you would have your money. So
yeah,
it's part of your challenge, Alan and Steve, to get there the hard way.
Yeah. Well, see, the money isn't just the main thing. Even if a philanthropist came along and said, here's the money, there's still going to be the issues of learning, setting things up, and all the other bit, because it's not always about money, unfortunately. There is the other side to it as well. And but yeah, no, I mean, we live in hope, and we put the energy out there. We've come to that time, Garnet. We'll have to let you go, but fantastic information. Thank you for coming on. I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to get all your details to let people know where they can find you and about your book. And again, good luck with your third book. I hope you get great information from Albert. I hope you can ask Albert a few questions of the things that we said, and if he was, hopefully he'll answer them for you, that you can put in the book and people can find out about it. But again, thank you for coming on. I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve's going to get all your details there.
Yes, Garnet, I want to echo Alan's sentiments as well. It's been good information. As we said earlier, some of what you said may resonate with a lot of people. They may not resonate with others, but they just need to put it on the shelf, or even better, get one of your books and check that out. We do have a link to your website here, Garnet, Schulhauser.com, and we also have a link to your YouTube channel as well, which I have posted up in the chat room, and we've also got a link to Amazon for the books as well, which you've also put up there for the listeners. Is there any other links that you want to throw out there, or any information, or even just a closing statement?
No, I think that covers it. All the information you need is on my website, which you've listed on your website, and so people dial onto that. They can get information about my books and buy links for my books and all my social media sites. So that's pretty much the gateway to all the information they need. And thank you, Alan and Steve, for inviting me on your show. I enjoyed being back on it again, and hopefully we can do this again sometime in the future. Yeah,
definitely. I think when you're near, I know you're working on book number 4, and when you finish that, definitely give us a shout, and we'll get you back on, and we'll do another interview, and we'll get an update and see if Albert has actually said anything to you about what's going on. You might be lucky, you might get something. Garnet, just stay with us there for a minute, and what we'll do is we've just gone over to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
Okay, and we're back. A little bit of Nirvana Teen Spirit there. Smells like Teen Spirit. Alan actually wanted me to play Ghostbusters. I don't actually have Ghostbusters. I do. I'm not sure why you wanted me to play it, but I don't have it, so I do apologise. I think Alan has that in his 45 collection.
Well, my 80s collection.
I do, and yes. Anyway, good information there by Garnet Schulhauser. As we say, it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but it will. Just put it on the shelf. Put it on the shelf. Anyway, our next guest is a gentleman that I came across absolutely accidentally while having a browse on YouTube a couple of weeks ago. And I seen some of his videos, and I subscribed to the channel. I watch more of his videos, and I have to say the information and the way it's portrayed is it's mind blowing. It really is. It's not some kind of Harvard professor up there, and he's not kind of singing from the pulpit. It's just a guy like you or I. And by his own admission, he's just a guy who knows some stuff. So I'm going to say a very good evening, and I do hope I get his surname correct. Anthony Pantalleresco. Good evening, Anthony.
See, it's an Irish name. You got it dead on, eh?
Yeah. When I read it first, I actually thought it was Murphy, Anthony Murphy. But is that correct, Pantalleresco?
Yeah, you did a fine job.
But I've been practicing all week, truth be told.
Ah, okay. See, but it's got that Irish ring to it. I figured you'd have got that, but yeah.
Yeah, it does. Anyway, Anthony, you're just a guy who knows some stuff. And I have to say, from what I've seen on your YouTube channel and the videos that I've watched, you're not just a guy who knows some stuff. You're an educated guy who knows a hell of a lot of stuff. And just to kind of kick us off and get us into the zone, for the listeners who've probably never heard of Anthony Pantalleresco before, just give us a quick bio on who you are and how you got to know some stuff.
I'm just a guy like anybody else. I mean, came into the world in like the normal way. When I was younger, I was into sports. And at the time, I grew up in North America, in a Mediterranean background. And so I didn't want to really, at the time, anabolic steroids were getting a big, bad rap. And because there was so little known about them. And so, anyway, I started my venture in looking at natural ways of fortifying my body and making myself stronger and whatnot, without the use of any kind of agents, if you would. But later on, I found out that a lot of the anabolics, there's a couple of them, there's 3 of them actually, that anybody could take that would actually benefit. And they also use them for children on some levels with no side effects. But at that time, I started on the quest, and so I started looking at everything from Asian to Near Eastern, Mediterranean, biblical, you name it. If there was something to do with health, I was researching it, studying it, trying different things, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't work. And over the course of time, spent a lot of money on a lot of product that just, some of them were phenomenal, some of them not so much. And I've seen the de-evolution of the health food industry in the last 30 years or 35 years, how it's gone from stuff that we used to give people 35 years ago that had a very pronounced and successful effect to the crap they're selling today, the putting aborted babies in vitamins, putting titanium dioxide to cause male to become neutered, this nano silver crap that they're selling, which causes nothing but cancers and again debilitates the testes of the male, causing them to go sterile and cause cancers, not to mention stuff getting lodged in the brain. So I knew about Agenda 21 when we first started off doing the videos. We knew about Agenda 21's coming in to basically debilitate people using food and how they were going to take away things that were going to actually keep people healthy. And Europe, I believe it was 2011 or 2012, put a ban on the moratorium on herbs, which I found shocking that the Europeans didn't have a revolution over this, since herbalism has been part of Europe ever since Europe's inception. Yeah. And then here we are today, doing a radio show. So basically, that's it in a nutshell.
Well, it's been from what I've seen on the videos, it's been a fantastic journey because a lot of the things that I've seen, like sometimes you look at someone's YouTube channel and they'll say a lot of stuff and you kind of go, yeah, I've heard that before, and there might be one nugget of information in there. But I have to say, a lot of your videos have just been mind blown from start to finish. and especially the one I watched there last night where you were talking about the benefits of the herb rosemary. Now, I'd heard of rosemary before, and I know some people used to use it they used to make a rosemary tea. And again, it was just one of those things I thought, you can make some tea out of it, and it probably tastes nice, and it'll probably suit those people who drink the likes of green tea and what have you. But I never actually looked into the benefits. And when I seen your video last night, I think it was about half an hour long, and you went into the whole, it was almost the science behind the rosemary, and there's a lot of issues and there's a lot of things that it's actually quite good for. And I'm just wondering, could you share, just maybe off the top of your head, could you share some of the, some of the stories, like for argument's sake, the rosemary one, because there's a lot of benefits to that little herb that I'm guessing a lot of people haven't a clue about.
Well, that's lost information. Europeans knew about rosemary. I mean, from your neck of the woods, you had a herbalist, an alchemist in the 12th century, Culpeper. Yeah. And the man was a genius. I mean, even by today's standards, as a scientist, he was literally, a millennium ahead of his time. And you see, he had a little different take on how he did things. I guess he was a little bit more refined in the educational aspects of the herbalism. But he understood even the nuances of the sun and the moon and the different seasons of the time, and how it would affect the chemistry of these plants and the effect that they would have on these plants, and the best time to actually use these plants for whatever. Now, we don't go through that elaboration today, but when you look at rosemary, where do you want to begin? It protects you from cancer, protects the liver from being poisoned. It affects the brain as far as memory. It keeps the cholesterol in the body from oxidizing. It's an immune booster. It's a powerful analgesic, especially when combined with ginger. Simon & Garfunkel made a song, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Well, if you look at all three of those herbs, those are nootropic herbs. In other words, herbs that support the efficacy and the capacity for the brain to work properly. All these drugs that they're giving today, a lot of them are based on the effect of these herbs. Rosemary has an antioxidant property that's equivalent to a synthetic called BHT, and it will keep fat from oxidizing. So all these people buying all these omega-3s, which I'm dead against, because of the rapid way that they oxidize the body and causes the body to accelerate in the aging and breaks down the lipid membrane of the cells, which protect the myelin sheet. Rosemary actually protects from that type of oxidation. So in itself, it's an anti-aging herb. It actually can slow down the aging process. So combining that with vitamin C and a whole host of other herbs, it's if you looked at that herb alone, and you looked at its properties, when you extract it in alcohol, you get rosmarinic acid. When you extract it in water, you get ursolic acid. And when you put the two together, you get a complete antioxidant profile. And one of the things it does do is it protects men from estrogen overload, and women too. But the problem with men's prostate a lot of times is a result of estrogen dominance, or too much estrogen, because your body produces it from testosterone. But this blocks that from binding to the body.
So it can stop some man boobs.
Well, as long as you're not, taking more estrogen than this stuff can block. But for instance, the biggest problem with man boobs is guys like beer, right? You Irish are known for this. And so what they've done with the grain, which I tell people all the time, leave alone because of the glyphosates and all this other stuff they put on the plants and the genetics and the nano, it blocks the conversion. So, again, helps the liver. Sage, anything of the peppermint family. Peppermint, spearmint, parsley, dandelion also does it too, but not the same family. Rosemary, sage, thyme, savory, oregano. These all block estrogen. Okay, they all have an estrogen blocking component to them. They're what they call anti-aromatizing effect. So you can actually make a SERM, which is a selective estrogen receptor modulator, to actually allow these things to block those receptors from collecting estrogen. So when you look at it, this is what I'm saying is just topically, the topical part of this, the surface part of rosemary. In Arizona, that species that grows in the desert doesn't even need water, and even ants won't go near that one. That's how powerful that is.
Wow.
So you've got the stuff that we show and we try to display, we try to show stuff that the common person across Europe and Canada, United States, most of the planet actually, can go to a grocery store. You don't have to go to any place in a lab. It doesn't have to be orgasmically organic like they tell you and all this other happy horse hockey that they try to sell here. You go to the grocery store, pick the stuff up. If you don't have any alcohol, make some and extract, and you got a simple remedy that you can make right at home within anywhere from 30 minutes to 4 weeks, depending on what method of extraction you want to use.
Yeah, and I have to say that's one thing that was amazing to me, was how simple it is to do the extraction. Because sometimes you hear of, you have to extract this and you have to extract that, and there's it just seems like a long-winded process. But on a lot of your videos, I think you have kind of shown how it can be done, and like you say, with kind of basic household items that anyone would have in a kitchen.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got to remember. This industry is a glorified pile of BS today.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Since I can get away with bullshit, I can say bullshit. Okay. And, we're always trying to make things seem so out of reach. It's a common guy can't do this. Well, bloody hell, the common guy was doing this long before we had an industry. And they would go grab some herbs, boil them in water, boil them down to it would fill up a half a pot, boil it down to about an inch above the pot, strain it, and you had a super powerful remedy right there that people used to drink all the time to treat all kinds of remedies. And unless we're going to break down to the minutia of whatever you're utilizing, then yeah, you may need special equipment. But for the common person, all you want to do is concentrate the component of the herbs or components of the herbs so that when you use them, you have a healing value that's going to take out or rectify or balance whatever you got going on. So it shouldn't be a complicated process, nor should it have to cost you a second mortgage in order to recover from an issue.
Yeah.
I never bought into that crap either. I think that's a lot of horse hockey that, you got to go over here, our medical here, are about as incompetent as you can get. They couldn't tie their shoe with Velcro. They haven't cured anything in the last 70 years, yet they can treat everybody with every kind of drug known to man, create 30 different side effects and everything, and some of the side effects are death or worse. Yet they can't cure nothing, and they're trying to keep some kind of, some sort of spectral, ominous thing about them that they are special. And this is transferred over into the health food industry as well. And so in order to find some kind of relief, you got to pay some medical establishment or some guru or whatever who's got a piece of paper saying that they can treat you for $5,000 zillion. So now you go get a second mortgage out, you take the pills, do the procedures, and go get surgery or whatever. You come out, you're all broken up, and you're still not fixed. So I find that to be a little bit hokey.
Yeah, I totally agree. We said it many times before that the pharmaceutical companies, I think it's if they kill you, that's bad. Or no, what's the saying? What is it? If they cure you, then that's bad. But they don't want to cure you. They want you to be perpetual customer.
Perpetual customer getting the drugs like diabetes and stuff.
You're never going to get fixed. Never.
No, well, you don't want it. They don't want to fix you. They just want you to get that money all the time.
The biggest sham going right now is cholesterol. How many of you hear cholesterol and high blood pressure? I get people scared out of their wits about their cholesterol. If your cholesterol isn't over 220, you're dying anyway. 220 is where it should be and higher. So, for your brain to function, for your heart to function, for men to have proper testosterone, for your immune system to keep you from getting hit with viruses, but they want everybody's cholesterol down. And as you get older, now those of you in my generation, born in the 50s, us ancient dinosaurs that been around before and after this insanity that's occurring, they want the cholesterol to go down, but the cholesterol for our group goes up as we get older because it compensates as an antioxidant to help because your vitamin C and vitamin E levels diminish, so you need that cholesterol for protection, and it protects you from cancer. But these idiots over here want to reduce it. And even the blood pressure. They got the blood pressure. They want everybody here. If you're 7'4", 5,000 pounds, you got to be 120 over 70. Not happening. 120 over 70, 130 over 80, 140 over 90 is the ideal blood pressure, depending on the size and the frame of the body. And you shouldn't be worried about blood pressure unless it's getting around 200. If it gets around then you got a problem. Now, this is the thing about blood pressure people don't realize. When the blood pressure goes up, it's because the kidneys are trying to filter out the blood from whatever pollutants or any or pro-oxidants or free radicals that might be there. Now, if you take a blood pressure reading, you do it in 2 hours. You take one and then take it again in 2 hours. That's where you get an accurate reading, because it may be up at that time when it's trying to filter something that might be a little difficult. In 2 hours from then, you may find it down back to its normal functioning level. And they don't tell you this. So now right away you got to have this blood pressure making it. Oh, blood pressure. And then they give you rat poison, warfarin.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
We know somebody that's on that, and lucky enough she's going to go to one of a person that we had on the show there recently to actually speak to him about it. Anthony, we do have limited time on the interview, and we know we have a lot of questions coming in for you. So we're going to quick fire all these questions coming in, and if you can just give us a line or two of an answer if possible, that's great, and we'll just go through them. Steve has a few things there. I'm going to start off with this one, and it was a question by one of our listeners on the chat room, Heron, and he said, can you ask Tony about reversing tooth decay on the vegetarian diet?
Vegetarian diet, what a joke. Reversing tooth decay is going to require phosphorus. And the cheapest and easiest method is the one we show you on the YouTube, where you take baking soda and phosphorus. If you want to add a little calcium oxide to it, mix it up and swirl it in the mouth and allow it to do its magic, and it can regenerate. When you're on a vegetarian diet, make sure, not vegan, vegetarian, make sure you're getting adequate yogurt, kefir, sour cream, cottage cheese, full fat. Nothing sugar-free, nothing fat-free, and nothing with fruit in it. Get the real McCoy. That's what's going to fortify the body. You're going to need the fat in there also to help regulate the hormones for production of the bone as well.
Okay, excellent. Right, Steve, you've got your list there.
I do have a little list to prompt me. Just when you were talking about the statins and the cholesterol, I mean, what you said about that is so true, and that's one of the golden nuggets of information that the doctors aren't telling us, because I was put on statins a couple of years ago. I'm 47 years of age, Tony, and I was put on statins about 5 years ago, and the problems that I had after going on the statins, it was aches and pains, and I couldn't hold a pen, I couldn't write. I then start doing the research into statins, and because what we do here at Open Your Mind, we do kind of have a lot of different guests, and some of them are medical doctors and some are alternative doctors, and we were able to glean some information from those. I learned a lot about the statins and what they do, and based on that I stopped taking them overnight, and I have to say, everything kind of reverted back to normal, because the side effects of these damn drugs were unreal. And like you say as well in the videos, when people are talking about you need to stay away from the butter and the full fat, this, that and the other, you need to switch to the margarine and stuff like that. And then your video comes along and blows that completely out of the water, and you explain fantastically as to why people should be on the butter. Can you just give us a quick one on the butter?
Butter, pound for pound, is one of the best healing agents on the planet. You know, you guys over there, and I buy the Irish cream from Ireland over here because it's a double cream. And the fatter the better as far as I'm concerned. The only thing that I buy more than that is the sheep cream, which has got even more fat. You should be pounding fat in the left, right, and center, because the more cholesterol you take in the body, the more it regulates it. This crap, these statins, the first thing they blow out of the body is the CQ10. Once the CQ10 goes off, the vitamin E in your body becomes a free radical, and it actually becomes a carcinogen. So the CQ10 and vitamin E go hand in hand in supporting the heart, supporting the mitochondria, supporting the myelin sheet, everything. So as soon as they give you that, the frontal lobe of your brain gets wiped out, because 20% of your fat is up there that supplies the brain energy. And then you got the DNA damage that this stuff causes. So, I mean, there's nothing good about this bloody drug at all. Again, it was designed to debilitate and break you down and turn you into basically a mental vegetable. The things that you can use that does the same thing that the statins, again, go to the grocery store. You got onion, you got garlic, you got red pepper, you got ginger, you got galangal, you got pineapple, you got papaya, you got kiwi. They all do the same thing. You know, they keep the blood from coagulating. They regulate the cholesterol by providing the antioxidants. Rosemary, sage, thyme, bay leaf. You get the bay leaf part? These all protect the cholesterol from oxidizing. What causes the cholesterol issue is sugar, because the cholesterol reacts with the free radical damage that the sugar does and causes the cholesterol to what they call periodize or break down. So how do you fix that? Take more cholesterol. Cholesterol cleans cholesterol. I don't care if your cholesterol is from here to the dark side of the moon. As long as it's in the body, protecting the blood, the arterial lining, and moving like it's supposed to, you got no problem. So when they check for LDL and HDL, what they're actually checking there is a protein, not a fat or a lipid. So a lot of this has been a complete pile of rubbish to sell drugs and to debilitate people on purpose. And margarine has absolutely no value, just putting plastic in the body, which then, instead of having vitamin D and the vitamin A that you would get from butter, and the several different acids, like the stearic acid that you need for the heart, you're not putting a plastic or a plasticizer in the system, which is now coating the arteries, which is now collecting crap, which is now causing damage to the cells, which causes mutation. So this margarine stuff, the only thing margarine should be used for is a lubricant for metal. Other than that, don't even go in. And stay away from canola oil. That crap will kill you. That causes more breakdown on the cells, and again, it causes rapid aging and rapid breakdown on the mitochondria. So stay away from that. The only thing that should be used for is, again, lubricating bicycle chains and door hinges, nothing else.
And what about, you also spoke in one of the videos, Tony, is about when you are consuming a lot of this margarine product, and then you go out in the sun. What exactly happens when the sun hits the skin after you've been eating this margarine?
Well, you go cancer. You got no protection. Butter protects the skin from the sun, right? So does iodine. And like I said, you got your vitamin A, you got your vitamin D, you got your, if it's grass-fed, you got your omega-3, you got your CLA, you got your vitamin E in there. It's all there. So you don't need to buy a lot of junk supplements to sustain this. So when you're taking plastic, well, what do you got? Nothing. So the sun hits you, it heats that plastic. Oh, you have skin cancer. Oh, you have some debilitating issues going on there. Oh, you got some cellular degeneration happening. Oh, I wonder where that's coming from. You know. Yeah. So it's a lot of horse hockey. Like I said, the only thing it's good for is, like I said, if I got a motor or a door hinge or electrical or some kind of bicycle chain, put it on that. That's what it's good for. Keeps it from rusting.
Okay. And Tony, tell us, you also spoke about Serrapeptase and the benefits of that as well. Can you just give us a quick one-on-one on the Serrapeptase?
As far as enzymes go, that's probably the biggie to go with, that and proteolytic enzymes themselves. Because, again, the way they kill cancer cells, that one specifically will even break down asbestos, so it helps break down silica. If somebody had an issue of congestion in the arteries, that's the one to go to, not nano. I don't even like nano at all. I think nano, they should just take that and just scrap that crap. Anything coming from soy, as far as I'm concerned, is not fit for anybody to consume, period. With the amount of crap they put on soil, the glyphosates, the nano sprays, the chem sprays, I mean, when even wildlife won't go near the stuff, that's telling you something. So, where Serrapeptase is a completely different animal, and it's very effective, and if you use it, you'll find that there is any blockages, impediments, if you've got any kind of blood clotting that possibly might be moving, this is the one to go to break it down. You can combine it with other enzymes, and if you say, for instance, eating papaya, pineapple, kiwi, with the Serrapeptase, you augment the effect. So it is probably, on my webpage, I have a enzyme link. Anyone who wants to know anything about enzymes, you can go on that website. Feel free to download anything off my page. And you can learn about serrapeptase or serrapeptase, and you can see what you over there in Europe, you're like 50, 60 years ahead of the game compared to over here on this. So, like I said, a lot of it's being hidden from you guys over there now, but for the longest time, that supplement actually came out of Europe.
It's funny that Richard said the same thing. Richard Cumbers agreed that serrapeptides were great for kind of clearing the arteries, and it's good that Anthony kind of backs that up and confirms it. Just a quick question, Anthony. If somebody came to you and said, I've been diagnosed with cancer, what would you recommend them do?
Go out and have a party because you're going to beat it.
Cancer
is the most overrated boogeyman ever. I mean, it is incredibly, that's the fear of cancer. It's nothing. It's no more different than a cold or anything else. If someone comes up to me, I give them the formula that we give them here. Get them off. We change the diet, number one. You got cancer, I don't care where you live in the world. Sugar is out of your diet. Bread, all bread, cereals, rice, grains, corn, soy, tap water is no longer in your vocabulary. Okay, you're going to lay off the red meats for a bit. You are going to use things like colostrum. You are going to use things like yogurts, kefir. You're going to make the teas. You're going to take certain supplements. But this is just as easy to beat as anything else, except, like I said, they got the fear of whatever going on. Majority of the cancers that are occurring today are a direct result of an overload of some kind of something, whether it be pathological, whether it be a pollutant, whether it be a indulgence of food, whatever. You know, we are being hit with chemtrails, and they're finding that a lot of the tumors are pulling out. They are a direct result of a saturation of metallic concentrated metallic components, which is what chemtrails are because they're based on nano. And so what happens is the body tries to isolate, and these things just keep on proliferating. So when you use these things, they help break down some of the malignancies of the cancers. They can reverse some of the cancers back to normal. Copper is one element you'd want to take if you had cancer, because what copper does, it causes mutated cells to go back to normal. And guess what? So does rosemary. So does sage. So does thyme. So does bay leaf. So does savory, so does oregano, so does parsley, so does dandelion. Are you getting the message here?
Yeah, definitely. You know. Well, actually, you said something there earlier about being a vegetarian or vegan. What did you mean by that when you said that was did you say it was a scam or something?
Veganism has been another one. I get a vegan, this guy comes on YouTube and he tries to propagate this vegan crap. Veganism for a short interim for cleaning the body is not a bad thing. To live on it, you'd have to be brain dead, literally. It's a diet specifically designed to strip the body, period. That's all it does. Where vegetarianism, basically you're just not eating meat, red meat. So some vegetarians do eat chicken, some don't. Some eat eggs and dairy products, which I have no problem with because that's more balanced and its approach to, again, sustaining the body. But veganism, again, to live on it, you'd have to be really stupid. And today, with the level of chemtrail fallout, you guys haven't had a chance. You should go watch. It came out of Italy. It's called Chemtrails: A Secret War. And I've been saying for 3 years before this video came out that with the chemtrail fallout on the vegetables today and with the level of saturation from the sky, we're all consuming some form of nanoparticle, and we're getting nanoparticle poisoning. Then when I did my research on nano, because I've been really pushing on this research, I'm finding they can actually mass-produce nanoparticles using vegetation because most nanos today that they're using is a carbon base. So when we're eating a lot of things today, the so-called health stuff that we're eating today has to be reevaluated by everybody. I'm one of the few that's already on top of this. But because you're going to find that people are eating high levels of nanoparticles, nano-aluminum, nano-barium, whatever, in the vegetation that they're eating, and it's causing them to break down, and the stuff will actually grow inside of you using carbon as its base of growth. So when someone says they're vegetarian or vegan, today I kind of cringe because, like I said, they're getting a full-on hit with the saturation, because those who do eat meat, I guess this is what the vegans get all worked up about, The meat itself, the animals that are eating the vegetation, will filter out a lot of that through their digestive system. You're still going to get it, even through that. That's how this stuff permeates. The whole food supply has been compromised everywhere. So if you're getting food from the United States or Canada, your food's been compromised. If you're getting any kind of genetics grown in the ground or using any kind of sprays, your food's been compromised. So when I make these comments today, I'm making based on not what I've heard in the past and getting into a debate about some ideological differences. I'm talking about what's going on actually today with the nano from the sky, the chemtrail fallout, these frequencies we're being hit with, which also affects the plants. It's a complete sabotage going on, and this is why you might be finding over there in Ireland, because I do get a lot of people from Ireland writing me here too, a lot of the health issues are not clearing up as quick as they should, and this is one of the reasons why.
Yeah, good information. You spoke about the chemtrails and the nanoparticles in those. We actually did have Michael Murphy on I think it was a couple of years ago now. I don't know if you've seen his video, Tony. What in the world are they spraying? Where he goes into great detail about that, and we've been promoting that for a long time. There's actually a chap over here in Ireland, Terry Lawton, and he's doing Trojan work in relation to chemtrails. So yeah, I mean we're very very well aware of what's going on there.
We just aren't aware of the nature. That's the thing, and we know about chemtrails, but we're not looking at. When you're talking about a nanoparticle today, I'm not just talking about some inanimate particulate matter. I'm talking about something that's got a program running, something that can self-assemble, self-prepare, self-replicate, something that can feed on other carbon and continue its assembling and spreading. When you see that line in the sky going across, we were out doing something yesterday. We were checking the meter, and we realized that the chemtrails were being spread not from the sky, but from the ground, that these Gwen towers we have are actually bouncing frequencies off the Earth and hitting these chemtrails, causing them to spread from the ground up. When we were pointing the devices at the Gwen towers, you could hear them going off the map. As soon as I pointed at a person that was standing in front of me in the tower, the meter went dead, and I realized that we are absorbing full-on frequencies. And so when when we have this thing at ground level, and we're looking up above us and seeing the spread going on, we realized this was activating the programs up there so that these things would spread. When these nanoparticles, this is why you're hearing about people getting what they're calling Morgellons, which isn't really Morgellons, it's nano-poisoning. They're dealing with a synthetic life form that's been activated, which now is integrated with DNA and, again, uses carbon as its means of self-assembling, gets inside the body, and then starts using your components of your body, whether it be proteins, sugars, or whatnot, to rewrite your DNA and your genetic code. And this is the true danger of a lot of this stuff. That, again, nobody has, we've hit on it, and we've been talking about this. Even if you go on my site, we've got all kinds of information on nanotech that I think everybody should be looking into, and do not buy anything in this industry that even remotely talks about nano delivery method. That is the biggest hijack and the screw job going yet to further debilitate and to sabotage whatever you're doing. So seriously take a look at that, because I think you guys will have more of a mind or eye-opening effect when you start looking at this.
Yeah. Just in relation to the spraying and the chemtrails, Tony, have you ever heard of, or have you tried, and if so, do they work, chembusters based on orgonite?
I've never tried it. I did a conference about 3 months ago up in Toronto, and there was a guy there who said he built one. Now, he said he saw it work. Now, I've had conflicting comments back and forth on it. Some people said they see him dispersing them. Some say they don't see him doing anything. I really don't know. I've never built one. I've got the tube here. I just haven't had a chance to go do it because of some of the other things. I'm working right now on making something to cause the nanoparticles in the body to go from nano to microns, so we can pull them out of the system. Working on a lot of different things right now to get this stuff out of our bodies. Okay. So I haven't had a chance to do that yet.
Well, maybe someday you will. I'm sure you can let us know. Tony, Chris on the chat room was wondering, he said he knows this may be a long shot, but can you ask Anthony, is there anything I can take to repair my worn out hip? He has a problem with a hip.
Walmart. Go to Walmart, take out the old hip, get a new one, no more problem. Tell them to go, I'll give you an old ancient 12th century remedy. May work. It's worked for a lot of people. There's no guarantee. Go get some simple gelatin and some comfrey root or comfrey leaf. Make a tea out of the comfrey leaf, and then once you get the tea, filter it. Dissolve some gelatin in water before you mix it with the comfrey. Mix it together. Add a little maple syrup to it. Put it in a refrigerator. Turn it into Jello and start consuming that morning, noon, and night. And you can also make a tea. The same method. Just make the comfrey root or comfrey leaf. Make a tea. Filter it. Dissolve some gelatin before mixing it in with the tea, and then add a little maple syrup and start drinking that down. Give it about 2 weeks to 10 days. It's 15 days. You should notice strength in the area, diminishment of pain, and a little bit more endurance. Now, give it a go. It may take longer. Like I said, I don't have X-ray vision, so I can't see the extent of the damage. But that would be where I would start you off. And again, start using high doses of vitamin C and rosemary tea also to support the liver. Give it a go. No bread, no pasta, no rice, no canola oil, especially that canola crap, and nothing with soy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of information on your website in relation to soy and how bad it is. Comfrey root, I had to check that out. I don't know if it's known over here by a different name because I've never heard of it myself. Okay. But we will stick that up on the site there for people to check out. And Chris, you can give it a go as well if you can find it. What else we got? Another thing I found fascinating, Tony, was whenever you go into a doctor's surgery. Now I don't go into a doctor's surgery a lot, but anytime I have been in one, I've often seen the chart, the food pyramid chart, and I actually laughed in one of your videos when you were talking about that chart should be flipped upside down because you were saying that all the good stuff is down the bottom, which they don't want you to have. Oh no, sorry, all the good stuff is up the top, which they don't want you to have, and all the bad stuff, all the crap is down the bottom, and they want you to consume lots of that. Yeah,
well, that's what they did. Well, years ago, you had meat at the top, dairy behind it. Fruits and vegetables and grains. Grains are at the very bottom. Yeah. You know, because they ain't worth the filter's fart. You know, so now what they've done is they flipped the chart, so they got everybody eating all these grains and breads and whatnot, saying, oh yeah, eat, you know. And this is a diabetic's nightmare. This is a cancer victim's nightmare. You know, this is a autoimmune person's disease. Because all these things are sprayed with glyphosates, they're all genetically engineered. This orgasmically organic crap that they profess so strongly here has absolutely no value or truth to it whatsoever. And then they got the stuff at the bottom, the meat, which should be at the top, which is all your nutrients, all your proteins, all your fats, all your vitamins, which sustain life. That's at the bottom.
Yeah.
So, you know, something's wrong with that picture, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely worth doing a hell of a lot more research on that one. The last thing kind of really on my list that I wanted to mention to you was something that both Alan and I, we have it here and we use it, which it's sodium bicarbonate. Now it's the one that there's no aluminium. It's the good stuff. It's the chunky stuff. You have to kind of smack it with a hammer to break it up. What's your thoughts on the sodium bicarb?
Hey, use it. I mean, I use it for delivery method. I got people, for instance, bodybuilders, where I tell them to take creatine, put the creatine with the baking soda, add a little citric acid to it, and now you've got something that's going to go into the Krebs cycle to deliver those aminos directly into the muscles. You got something that's going to stimulate the growth hormone response. You could use that with almost anything. I mean, if I'm taking a mineral supplement, for instance, or vitamin C, if I'm taking a high dose of vitamin C because I'm fighting something off or whatever, then I'm taking, let's say, 10 grams of C. I had the baking soda and I had my minerals too. As soon as that starts to fizz, down it goes because I know it's a shotgun effect. If I want something in my body quick, I will use it. If you guys are using it to alkalize the system, to keep the system neutral, yeah, it's the cheapest and easiest way of doing it.
Yeah, what I've actually started to do as well, because I heard you talking about the apple cider vinegar, although I don't have the one that you recommend, but I've tried the sodium bicarb and the apple cider vinegar, and I got a fright when I put it in first because it started to fizz right up the glass, but I just added a little bit of water and threw it down the hatch, and yeah, it didn't taste too bad. Is that a good combination, the apple cider vinegar?
Yeah, sure, it's a good combination. I mean, vinegar kills viruses, and you got two alkalizing agents there when you get in the system. So yeah, I don't see a problem with it. People should be doing that stuff more regularly, especially today with all the stuff that's we're exposed to, especially our guts. I mean, people eat a lot of grains and stuff, and they don't realize a lot of the pylori and the GERD is a result of the genetic material in the gut growing and proliferating. This is one of the things that can help, again, oxygenate the system and kill some of that stuff. So, yeah, use it. I mean, you should find that let's say you got a pain, you got aches and pains. Well, you go get real aspirin, which isn't cut with anything, and take about 100 milligrams of that, put it with your baking soda, add vinegar or citric acid and water, and drink that. The pain relief will be almost instantaneous because of the way it delivers the aspirin through the body. And aspirin and baking soda both kill cancer cells. So aspirin kills 8 different forms of cancer. So, but it's got to be clean. Nothing with enteric-coated, nothing time-release, nothing with aluminum in it, nothing with yellow number 5 or number 6, nothing with any kind of natural or artificial flavoring like aborted babies. Real, straight on. If you can't find it anywhere, go to your equestrian suppliers or your canine suppliers and get it there.
Okay. Sorry, I thought Alan was going to jump in there. Yeah, a lot of great information. Too much information for one show, Tony. We're going to have to get you on for a second show and probably a third show as well, if you're up for it. There are more questions, but we don't have time to get to them, unfortunately. I just want to say thank you immensely for agreeing to come on, and the information, as I say, I'm going to keep watching your videos because they're a great source of information for me. I urge anybody out there to check out the videos. Just go onto YouTube and type in Anthony Pantalleresco, because the videos, you know, as I said earlier, it's kind of, you're not some Harvard professor, you know, kind of using all these big fancy words. You're just the everyman, the anyman, the man down the street who knows some stuff. And again, I want to just say thank you for coming on, Tony.
Just Tony, somebody just posted up there. Chris said, "Does Anthony have a book? Do you have any DVDs or book besides the YouTube channel?"
We got a flash drive. It's a pretty congested flash drive. Where we got my radio shows I do every Saturday from 2007 around there. We've got 120 videos up there. We've got 3 books I put out. We've also got 3 huge databases, one on farming, bushcraft, and homesteading. And then I've got the books I've got, Use What You've Got, Just a Guy Who Knows Some Stuff, and the binder. We've got that as well. We've got some T-shirts. If you go on my site, there's a catalog link there. And you can click on the catalog link, and it pretty well gives you everything that we do. The site is augmentinforce.com, and again, just feel free. And again, anything that's on the site, feel free to download. It's what it's for, so that everybody can have access to the information, so they're not victims or being held hostage by both ends of the industry, whether they be nutraceutical or pharmaceutical.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Steve's going to get all your details again there. The website, I think he's just on it there. I would just like to say, well, I think we're definitely going to have to do a part 2, Anthony, in a few weeks' time, couple of months' time. We'll get you back on and we'll do a full interview with you and we'll talk about this. Would you be up for that?
Sure. Listen, I'm glad you guys invited me. I appreciate it. Well, you can always... If you go on my site, look on the right side, there's a bunch of interviews and stuff I've done there as well. So you guys can even tune in and see what I'm really all about. I mean, you get to see me on the YouTube. What you see is what you get. It's a no-frills package, basically. You know, very stuff to the earth here. We don't get into any kind of glitter or glamour, and we just tell it the way it is, you know. So.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. That's much appreciated. Right, Steve's going to get all your details there, and we give them out again, and then we'll, pass it on to our guests, on to our listeners.
Well, as I say, we do have the website there. I'm going to post that up. I have actually posted that up on the chat room and with the link to the downloads as well, Tony. So, I mean, if you want to just throw a closing statement in there, we'd be just only delighted.
Well, just look at it this way. Read all your labels. Do not get sucked in by anybody selling you anything. You know, I've been in this business for over 35, 40 years, and I've seen it decline and go to hell in the handbasket. And one of the indicators you should realize, if you're taking something and you're not getting better, then probably what you're taking is either A, not adequate enough, or B, may not be nothing in it that you're buying. So really read the labels. Understand what you are reading. You know, just because something says natural and artificial flavor, that you ask yourself, what does that actually taste like? What is an artificial flavor? What is a natural flavor? Don't assume anything with those terms, you know. That would be my biggest thing. And again, you know, read and understand what you're doing. Do not just assume that somebody comes on there, that gets on there, is who may be a doctor even. Most of these doctors are about as dumb as a bag of rocks. They couldn't tie their shoe with Velcro when it comes to health. A majority of them are dead by the time they're 55, so that tells you something. So again, don't, just because somebody wears a white coat and a stethoscope or has got a piece of paper doesn't mean they're qualified. It just means that they learned how to jump hoops and sit, and when they were told to sit, and stand when they were told to stand. That's all that means. Yeah.
No, totally agree with you on that one. All right, Tony, just stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMIreland.com.
Okay, we're back. Yeah, just saying to Alan, I actually had a Queen track lined up to play there, and unfortunately Queen didn't play, but that was a nice one there from Green Day. Hopefully everyone appreciated that. Yeah, great information from Tony. As I said, I discovered his channel completely by accident, and I've been kind of watching him on a semi-daily basis ever since. You know, he's kind of very interesting. I find it interesting anyway. So he has agreed to come back on and do the full show.
Yeah, we'll do a full show next time, because information like that is gold dust. So we'll definitely get Tony on, and we'll have a talk to him in a few weeks' time, and we'll get a full show from him. Now, just a couple of things, and something that Tony said about frequencies and Gren towers, and something just having to think about during the week about the whole idea of a duty of care and all that kind of stuff. Now, we talk about the Wi-Fi, and we talk about the Tetra systems, the Tetra radios that the Gardaí are using, and the Wi-Fi, and we know they're dangerous. And regular listeners to the show know we've had the experts on to confirm all this, okay? And we know Wi-Fi and Tetra has not been approved to be in Ireland. It hasn't been approved. Okay, so just something to bear in mind. And I just wrote a note down about this and saying about, you know, the Tetra being dangerous. And I know all the Garda stations, they all have public liability insurance. They must have public liability insurance, because there's people going in and out, the general public. Okay? Now, if you're a person who's gone into the police station, now it could be the fact that you're going in there, maybe you got arrested, or you're going in there for a query. But all these police stations have massive Tetra antennas and towers on the police stations, right? Now, the thing is that that's radiating out a signal, which is very bad for everybody. Okay, so we know that. So generally, I'm just wondering, does their insurance cover the effects of Tetra and Wi-Fi radiation? Because at the end of the day, they must have a duty of care. And you know, if people suffer from electromagnetic sensitivity, we've talked about this on the show, we've interviewed people on the show who suffer from this. So if they're brought into a police station for whatever reason, and they suffer from it, and they have this massive tower radiating this energy, and they're affected by it, where did the police stand regarding their duty of care? Surely there must be a human rights issue going on there, or breach of human rights, because they're putting your health at risk. Now, the way some people might go, well, you know, you can try that and see how you get on as an argument. But when Al Capone got arrested and he got locked up, he didn't get locked up for the crimes he committed. He got locked up for tax evasion because he couldn't get him on the crimes that he did. So maybe that's one of the things we should be doing, is saying, well, hang on a minute. You know, you have a police station there and you've got a Tetra radio. Show us the evidence to prove in your insurance, your public liability insurance, that you have that covered. And I guarantee you, pretty much guarantee you, that their insurance will not cover the effects of Tetra and Wi-Fi radiation. And that's, as I say, it's a human rights issue. Now, if this technology is recognized as a symptom, if electromagnetic sensitivity is recognized as a symptom in Sweden, so it's a European issue, well then that must mean that it must be, if it's recognised in Sweden, then the Irish government won't be able to just fob it off and say, well, they might turn around and say, well, it doesn't apply to us. Well, actually it does apply to you, because you have to have some kind of health and safety in there and a duty of care to the people. So just something for people to be aware of if you ever want to challenge that. If you want to make a challenge on something, that's another one to devote. Now, in a few weeks' time, we're hoping to get Stephen on from Integrity Ireland. Stephen and his team are doing sterling work out there, and the corruption from the judiciary and the Gardaí and everybody else, the solicitors, it's just unbelievable. I mean, talking about, it's like trying to play chess with somebody who keeps cheating at the game. That's what's happening at the moment, Steve. It's just unbelievable. How can you play chess with somebody who keeps cheating? That's what the judiciary are doing at the moment with the legal system, and it's definitely the banana republic. That's where we are. Where we are in a banana republic, because it's the amount of corruption is unreal. But with the help of the people like the Hub and the Land League, National Land League, and everybody else doing their bit and getting involved and helping everybody out, hopefully we'll make a change sometime in this country. Maybe not our generation, maybe our kids might see the difference of the fruits of our labour. But maybe if our kids are listening to this interview in 50 or 60 years time, they'll say, yeah, you're on the ball there, but it took a few generations to get it sorted out. But so there you go. So right, next week on the show we have a chap called Peter Paget. Now he has he I'm not too sure whether he has a book out, but he says he has a video out, I think, called The Secret Life of a Spook. And basically he was undercover and he was involved with the UK government and doing various missions and tasks and jobs for them. And he's going to be talking to us next week all about what he got up to and the things he was involved in, and top secret stuff that he's seen. And hopefully he'll share that with us next week. So that's going to be quite interesting. What have you got planned for the week, Steve?
I'm just heading off to Barbados for a couple of days,
Barbados? Now, hang on, you have to fill out your census form.
Yeah.
This is, I'll tell you, I'm looking at the questions in this census form, right, and it's unbelievable. I mean, let's quickly look at this for a couple of minutes, right? So, the Statistics Act 1993 or something, wherever, the Statistics Act, it also states in there that it's voluntary, okay? That's number one. Number two, they're trying to force you to make a declaration, but that's illegal because they're trying to force you to do something that you don't want to do, right? Number three, what jurisdiction do they have? Can they physically give you the evidence that they have jurisdiction over you just because you're in Ireland as a country, right? Can they do that? And it says you are obligated by law. Well, again, is it legislation? It's not law, it's legislation.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. As I say, I don't have one of these because I never received one, and so there's nothing I can do about that, unfortunately.
Yeah. A poor guy he won't get his bonus now because he didn't deliver to all the homes.
Well, he should have got his finger out. Maybe he's just one of these lazy guys that just didn't want to deliver to some houses. I don't know. What do I know?
Oh, allegedly. Yeah, okay. Right.
So besides the form?
Besides the form, I'll be honestly what I'll be doing during the week is I'll be checking out a couple more of Tony Pantalleresco's videos because I find him quite interesting. He's an interesting guy. And also something that we mentioned last week, if you do have a couple of washers or shekels, euros, dollars or pounds, the people at the hub in Mullingar are doing great work, and Alan was down with them during the week, and they're inundated with callers, texts, and just people calling to the door. And they are doing great work, and I know it's going to be a bit of a struggle for them. So if you do have a couple of washers, shekels, euros, whatever the case may be, just go check them out on Facebook, the Hub Mullingar, and I think Dermot has a donate button on there, so you should be able to donate a couple of whatevers.
If you can't find that, just donate it to us, and we'll pass it on to Dermot. Just put a note on it saying for the for the hub, and we'll send it on.
Less our admin fee.
Well,
no.
We're not a charity. Okay, so we're going to have to go. We're going to pass over to Vin. I don't know who's on with Vin, but maybe Steve does. For myself, anyway, I'm hoping to get to the hub this week. Again, I'm going to head over this week and see the guys over there and see how things are going on there. It's just say, take care, goodbye for myself, Alan James. Stay safe. Have a good week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, and I don't know who's on with Vin, but I just want to say, Vin, thanks for the help, the bit of help there in relation to the audio issue earlier. We'll try and sort that out tomorrow. So, thanks again. Okay, for myself, Stephen George, we'll see you all again in 7 days' time. Take care, bye-bye.
Open your mind.